Coming up, more controversy on the campaign trail. New leaked documents reveal major tax deductions for Donald Trump. We'll explain what the documents mean for Trump, who has refused to voluntarily release his tax returns.
And later, is the DC Metro safe? Massive repair efforts have called into question the structural safety of the Metro, but what else should riders be on the lookout for? A recent assault at the Foggy Bottom station has some riders on edge. What you need to know before you ride. District Rider News starts now.
Good afternoon, I'm Maggie Miller.
And I'm Grace Ries.
Donald Trump's foundation is being ordered to stop soliciting donations in the state of New York after the Attorney General found that the foundation was violating state law. This comes after the New York Times released Donald Trump's 1995 tax returns in an article over the weekend. The documents showed Trump had a loss of $916 million in 1995. With more on this story, we go to Grace Palo.
The newly released documents suggest that Trump could have gone 18 years without paying federal taxes. In 1995, Trump reported losing $916 million. A recent poll shows Clinton leading with 42%, with Trump trailing behind at 36%. Even with the report being released, Trump's poll numbers have not changed a large amount. Professor Keith Pembroke, a government professor at American University, expected this.
I think the vast majority of Americans have already figured out who they're voting for. Trump not paying his taxes and $916 million, that hurts the people who are directly supporting Trump.
I will say this, we have a situation in this country that has to be taken care of. I will release my tax returns against my lawyer's wishes. When she releases her...
Trump responded to the leak with a tweet saying he knows tax law better than anyone. Professor John Wiseman, an economic professor at American University, had this to say.
Well, the total economic impact would be relatively small. I don't think that's what's important. I think what's important is what it tells us about the U.S. tax system. The rules of the game, that is how we socially organize, things like the tax code, have been rewritten in favor of the wealthy, who then...
Grace Palo with District Wire News.
The Trump Organization is facing backlash in D.C. Plywood is covering graffiti at the new Trump International Hotel this morning after an individual wrote the words "Black Lives Matter" and "No Justice, No Peace" on the building Saturday. Video was released online of a man in a yellow shirt tagging the building near its main entrance before leaving on foot. Police say that they have no suspects at this time but are continuing to investigate.
A historic schoolhouse has been vandalized with racist messages in Loudoun County. Police found swastikas, vulgar images, and racist messages painted on the building. The schoolhouse was used to educate African American children in the 19th century. The building is currently being restored into a museum. Restoration efforts are being placed on hold during the investigation.
The Washington Redskins' Deshaun Jackson is the latest NFL player to make a statement on the Black Lives Matter movement. The wide receiver wore cleats depicting police caution tape during warm-ups on Sunday. Jackson said he wanted to speak out against police-related violence, but he wasn't taking a stand against law enforcement. Jackson's decision to wear the cleats comes after protests started by Colin Kaepernick of the San Francisco 49ers, who has refused to stand during the national anthem.
American University students say important conversations need to continue after recent racially charged events on campus. Brooke Evans talked to student leaders on campus about the racial climate.
American University students and staff are discussing how to foster diversity and inclusion on campus after the school was thrown into the national spotlight. 2 incidents involving rotten bananas being thrown at black students and placed outside bedroom doors in Anderson Residence Hall sparked student outcry. In the following days, a protest was held outside the campus's Mary Graydon Center. Administrators met with students and faculty Tuesday to discuss frustration of the university's handling of the events. Campus organizations are now finding ways to better the community and to continue the conversation. Anderson Hall resident assistant and Black Student Alliance member Taylor Robinson says she's glad people are finally talking about race on campus. As an RA, she's receiving further training on how to talk about these issues with her residents.
I also think it's amazing that the issue and the Black Student Alliance is getting so much like media coverage, so a lot of people can see what Black students, I guess, are living through and experiencing on campus.
The conversation is continuing with a student-run poetry and music event about police brutality and race.
So we'd started planning this event before the protest that recently happened, and then when I showed up to that, and the turnout was like fairly strong, like it looked like several hundred people turned out. I'm expecting that this will draw a good number of people, especially with the number of clubs. We have, I think, 7 clubs on board who are co-sponsoring, and so they have their own constituencies that will all show up for their own reasons.
The Remember Their Names event will take place Saturday in the amphitheater. In Tenleytown, this is Brooke Evans.
Police officers will be on hand today at 4 local schools following threats posted on social media. Bladensburg High School, Charles H. Flowers High School, William Wirt Middle School, and Kenmore Middle School were mentioned in the posts. One private school is also closed today. School officials say the claim has not been substantiated, but they're taking additional precautions to keep students safe. The DC public school system is launching an emergency support team after a report found that most DC schools were not holding emergency drills. The report examined 20 DC schools and only 1 held the required number of drills, with some schools holding no drills at all. The school district says the emergency team will create a complete action plan to monitor emergency plans in the future.
The nation's first environmental impact bond was issued this morning by the DC Water and Sewer Authority. The $25 million bond was sold to the Goldman Sachs Urban Investment Group and Calvert Foundation. The money from the bond will be used to support the DC Clean Rivers Project, which aims to improve stormwater runoff management and improve water quality.
A mother says officials at Montgomery Village Middle School overreacted to her son's drawing titled "Black Lives Matter." School counselors made the student sign a contract promising not to attempt suicide after drawing a lynching for an assignment. The assignment was to draw something that the students wanted banned. The student told the Washington Post Thursday that he wanted racism to stop and that he did not want to harm himself.
A Maryland driver is recovering this afternoon following a car crash in Silver Springs that left him seriously injured. Police say the driver drove into La Frontera restaurant on Randolph Road just after 6 a.m., trapping the driver until emergency services arrived. No one besides the driver was harmed. The building sustained structural damage and has been deemed unsafe to occupy. The cause of the crash is not yet known.
A man is on the loose in Spotsylvania County after shooting a police dog last night. Joseph Conway attacked police at a traffic stop after they arrested the driver of the car he was in. Conway fled the scene and shot the dog after a K-9 team arrived. The dog was taken to a veterinary hospital and is awaiting surgery. Police have established a perimeter and are continuing to search for Conway.
The engineer of the New Jersey train that smashed into a rail station last Thursday is saying that he has no memory of the crash. Thomas Gallagher told investigators that he believes he was only going 10 miles per hour when he entered the station. Investigators are also saying that the one data recorder recovered was not functioning the day of the accident. They're hoping a second recorder was working. One woman was killed and more than 100 people were injured in the crash.
Metro safety is being questioned after the assault of an officer in Foggy Bottom Station Saturday night. Passengers are concerned for their safety and wonder if early closing times are helping with security. Metro is now closing at midnight every day. Toni Peake has more.
With more fires, delays, and traffic jams happening than ever before, train users are wondering if they should even use the Metro system. Just this past Saturday, a local DC resident attacked a Metro Transit officer at the Foggy Bottom station and attempted to escape down the Metro tunnel before getting arrested. Residents are giving us their take on Metro safety.
Considering that what's going on with the Safe Track and the fires or whatever the case may be, it's a little worrisome at times. And then on top of that, thinking about there's so many people going on the Metro, and then there's so much going on in the world, and so I'm thinking about like all aspects of safety when I'm on the Metro.
What happens on the platform in terms of people acting strange is really no different than what happens on the sidewalk. I mean, if you're comfortable walking on the sidewalk, which I am, then I'm going to be comfortable on the Metro platform because it's the same people on the platform as are up on the sidewalk.
Washington, D.C. Metro employees are still standing by the Metro security standards, even with the latest assaults and attacks.
I mean, you can always think that security can be better anywhere, but if you think of the number of passengers that we transport every day, the number of people that move in and out of the system, I think it's fairly safe if you go by numbers.
Even though the district has been the center for some unfortunate events, the Metro system continues to monitor their security in hopes of a better tomorrow. Reporting from Tenleytown, I'm Toni Peake, District Wire News.
Coming up on District Wire News, Hurricane Matthew is barreling through the Caribbean. Will it make landfall in the U.S.? And where is it headed? We've got the latest after the break.
And the vice presidential debate is tomorrow night. Will voters tune in, and will the debate make an impact? We'll tell you what one expert thinks after the break. Stay with us.